Here we are continuing with some early specimens of anatomically modern humans across the globe. So we have been looking at anatomically modern humans in Africa, in the Near East, and in China. They made it to Australia by at least 50,000 years ago, and there's some really interesting specimens with interesting features, physical features, including at Lake Mungo, but also a site called Cow Swamp. So the earliest skeletal evidence in Australia is from Lake Mungo, dating to around 40,000 years ago. But then fossils at Cow Swamp suggest that people who lived there between 14 to 9,000 years ago were different from the more gracile early Australian forms in Lake Mungo. Recent genetic evidence indicates that all current native Australians are descendants of a single migration dating back to at least 50,000 years ago. So that is really interesting. That just means that all native Australians now are descended from one group, but that doesn't mean there were other groups that did not leave descendants behind. And I'm going to show you the Cow Swamp skull in just a second. So here are some of the specimens I was mentioning. Mungo Man would be the more complete skeleton, I believe, Lake Mungo Man. And then the Cow Swamp's crania has extremely robust brow ridges, thick bone walls, globular features on the brain case, but the frontal bones, as you can see here, have extremely linear slopes from the brow to the top of the cranium, which is theorized or hypothesized to potentially be evidence of deliberate modification, like wrapping the head to reshape it. Some also argue that these represent Homo erectus type cranial features, but the early date of this Cow Swamp skull, or the later date of potentially 13 to 9,000 years ago, kind of puts things into a mystery. But these are early Australian specimens of early anatomically modern humans. And for reference, this is what the sea levels would have looked like then. So there still would have been quite a bit of ocean to cover to get to land from Indonesia and the rest of Asia. But they did make it, and it's sad to think that there are all these sites probably underwater now that had many early human settlements or sites that we probably cannot access because they're under the ocean. Okay, anatomically modern humans made it to Central Europe by around 40,000 years ago. There are sites in Romania and Czech Republic, in the Czech Republic dating to 31,000 years ago, and then in Central and Western Europe, they were widely dispersed by 28,000 years ago. Historically, fossils from Western Europe have received a lot of attention by academics. The best known sample of Western European Homo sapiens sapiens is from the site of Cro-Magnon, and the Cro-Magnon materials are associated with the Aurignacian tool assemblage. There are other sites dated to around 24,000 years ago, including at Lagervello, which seem to display a mixture of traits that could perhaps be evidence of admixture with Neanderthals or between Neanderthals and modern humans. Here is Cro-Magnon 1, dubbed Cro-Magnon Man. We can see these interestingly rectangular shaped eye orbits, but he did have a modern forehead, globular skull, a very anatomically modern face as well. Here we're seeing the burial at Lagervello. The skeleton of a 4-year-old child displays characteristics of both anatomically modern humans and Neanderthals, but is dated to around 5,000 years after the latest evidence of the last living Neanderthals. Here is a reconstruction of what that child would have looked like, and here's the skeletal evidence. Next, I'm going to be showing you a map of these ancient human migrations. So here we go. Anatomically modern humans made it out to the Pacific Islands and up and around to North America and South America. As always, newer finds are bringing some of these dates and changing them. Lately, there have been even earlier finds from the Americas, which kind of throw a lot of these migrations into question. We're usually thinking that anatomically modern humans made it to the Americas by around 15,000 years ago, but it could have been much earlier than that. Next, we're going to go over some technology and art in the Upper Paleolithic. So, with this expansion of modern humans, came an explosion of culture, and we're going to learn about that. But first, let's review. We have talked about different types of stone tools, from Oldowan to Acheulean. Then Lavawa came after Acheulean. So by 400,000 years ago, wooden spears were being made. By 200,000 years ago, the Lavawa style emerged. And then from 130 years ago to 30,000 years ago was Mousterian, which was usually, but not always, associated with Neanderthals. And this is where we made it to around the Middle Paleolithic. Now we're going to look at some other Upper Paleolithic stone tools.